months of the year, which analysts say is largely tied to his tariff policies. With consumer confidence plummeting, President Trump, who was sworn into office on January 20th, is laying the blame at the feet of President Biden, saying his policies, not the Trump administration, are responsible. Today's numbers don't account for the president's 145% border tax on Chinese imports, which he did acknowledge today could hurt American consumers. Tonight, what some of them are telling us. Garrett Hake has our reporting.
Tonight, President Trump looking to shift blame to his predecessor for a U.S. economy that shrank during the start of his second term.
You probably saw some numbers today, and I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January.
America's GDP down 0.3% in the first 3 months of this year. Trump the president for all but 20 days of it. The decline seen as a reaction to the president's trade war. U.S. production down, analysts say, largely because so many businesses rushed out to buy imports before tariffs kicked in. Meanwhile, the president also blaming Biden for sharp drops in the stock market, posting, quote, "This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th. That's despite posting last year under President Biden that, quote, "the Trump stock market was booming because of his poll numbers." He was pressed today.
You're saying that's the Biden stock market, yet you are the president. Can you explain that? Yeah, I'm not taking credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess. We came in on January 20th. So this is Biden. And you can even say the next quarter is sort of Biden, because it doesn't just happen on a daily or an hourly basis.
And the president again acknowledging his border tax on Chinese imports could hurt American consumers.
Somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
At a rally in Michigan overnight, arguing his tariffs are critical to boost American business.
After decades of politicians who destroyed Detroit to build up Beijing, you finally have a champion for workers in the White House, and instead of putting China first, I'm putting Michigan first, and I'm putting America first.
Businesses divided on the tariffs' impact. Matt Hatters in Texas makes its hats here and supports Trump's tariffs.
It's going to hurt our competition because they're buying product made in Mexico or China or wherever it's made at.
But at a beauty supply shop in Memphis, where most of their stock comes from China, the tariffs have created deep uncertainty.
As a small business, having a cash flow to try to beat the tariffs is difficult, right? Because we're very lean. The reality is some of that has to be passed to the consumer.
Garrett, let me ask you tonight, the Senate is voting on a resolution about the Trump tariffs. Exactly what are they doing?
Yeah, that's right, Lester. It's a bipartisan resolution to end the national emergency that President Trump has used to implement the tariffs, but it's all symbolic, as it would not pass or likely even be brought up on the floor for a vote in the House. Lester?
Garrett Hake at the White House. Thank you. A new report shows that China's exports have fallen to their lowest levels in years, given the trade war launched by President Trump. And as Steve Patterson reports, the evidence will soon be apparent at American ports.
The front line of President Trump's trade war with China and the 145% tariffs he put on that country is right here at our nation's busiest twin ports, Long Beach and Los Angeles.
Ports here in Southern California account for 30% of the nation's exports, 40% of the nation's imports, and about half of the business runs through China. If these tariffs stay in place, experts say it will definitely have an impact on consumers.
The worst case scenario is less choice on store shelves and online buying, prices spike, and families are really becoming tighter with their budgets.
Gene Soroka is the Port of LA executive director.
We only have 7 ships in port today. Normally on a Wednesday, you'd see 12 to 14 vessels.
He says incoming cargo, everything from clothing, electronics, to household goods, will plummet starting next week.
What we're seeing now is the cargo coming in from Asia will be down by about 35% until we get some semblance or signals that trade deals are on the way.
Down here at the docks to get a true sense of the scale of the operation. One of these ships can hold up to 10,000 of those containers with goods that wind up on store shelves all across the country.
The National Retail Federation says people will soon feel the effects right in the wallet.
How much will this impact the regular consumer?
retailers can't absorb the entirety of the 145% tariff. Talk about anywhere price increases between $2,000 to $4,000 or more for the year.
And businesses by the docks are feeling the squeeze now.
It makes me sad that we have people in power that have no clue on what's going on.
Yolanda Regalado runs the popular coffee shop Sirens. Dock workers are her best customers. Their union warning the trade war could lead to devastating job losses.
Our coffee just went up $1 a pound. That's a lot. Do we add $5 for a cup of coffee? I don't want to do that because the majority of people that come in here just want a decent cup of coffee, and we don't want to gouge them.
Pain being felt at the ports from a trade war nobody here wanted. Steve Patterson, NBC News, San Pedro, California.
Now to an update on a Columbia University student activist detained by the Trump administration. Today, a federal judge ordered Mohsen Madawi to be released on bail as he fights deportation. We get more from Stephanie Gosk.
Tonight, Palestinian Mohsen Madawi is released on bail and sounding victorious.
For anybody who's doubting justice, this is a light of hope, a hope and faith in the justice system in America.
The Columbia University student, who is a legal permanent resident in the U.S., was detained during an immigration interview in Vermont earlier this month, handcuffed and removed by federal agents. Last year, Madawi helped lead pro-Palestinian protests on campus. In a statement, the DHS says a green card is a privilege. When you advocate for violence, glorify and support terrorists that relish the killing of Americans, and harass Jews, it should be revoked. Madawi denies he has ever advocated for violence.
They arrested me. What's the reason? Because I raised my voice?
The federal judge ordered Madawi released on bail while he challenges his detention. His legal team arguing that the government is trying to silence his opposition to the war in Gaza.
This is not the first time we've seen the government go after basic First Amendment rights.
In his ruling, the judge said Madawi appears not to be either a flight risk or a danger to the community, adding that continuing to detain him would likely have a chilling effect on protected speech. DHS responding, the Trump administration is committed to restoring the rule of law to our immigration system. No judge, not this one or any other, is going to stop us from doing that. On the steps of the court, after 2 weeks in detention, Madawi with a defiant message for the administration.
To President Trump and his cabinet, yes, I am not afraid of you.
Now, Stephanie, this doesn't mean he can't be detained again.
No, that's right. He still has to challenge his detention in that federal court in Vermont. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is pursuing his deportation in immigration court, Lester.
All right, Stephanie Goss, thank you. The severe weather isn't letting up. The threat continues today for 12